Good afternoon. This is Joe Hall, the black man who reads aloud. This recording today is a Black History lesson, this moment in Black history. I named this essay, We'll Never Turn Back. I wanted to record it because it's an extensive history lesson for those who need to understand our history. I wrote this in 2016 for Black History Month then. This morning, as I mused some thoughts about my recent weekend post named You Better Go Ask Somebody, and digested just how pitiful yesterday's game and upcoming game, the Super Bowl, there was nothing super about that game. I thought about a young college student from Albany State College named Bertha Goober. Bertha Goober agitated for civil rights as a student in the early 1960s. Bertha was a member initially of the NAACP Youth Council before she moved towards aligning herself with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee in 1961 as a 19-year-old college student. Heck, I could write this morning about this young, passionate female warrior for justice and equality for our black communities across this nation. However, this morning I dedicated my words of sharing this story behind the words of a song that Bertha Goober wrote. That song, We'll Never Turn Back. Bertha Goober performed this song many times as a member of the Freedom Singers for SNCC, and it inspired many to fight the good, righteous battle against white injustice in this nation. There's a town in Emmett County, Mississippi that is named Liberty. That's just right, Liberty, really, Liberty. When I think of the word liberty today, I think of these freedoms tied directly to the word's meaning. Freedom of expression, freedom of thought, freedom of demonstration, freedom of democratic participation, freedom of economic opportunity, and freedom from unjust prosecution, and freedom from unfair incarceration. While my brothers and sisters in 1960 in Emmett County's Liberty, Mississippi was a cesspool of hatred and bigotry that overflowed with absolutely none of the elements essential for liberty to unveil itself. I mean, in the entire county in 1960, there was only one registered black voter, and that person dared not cast a ballot. For if he did, it would have been his last act as a living person. It was a county ruled by those who dished terror and intimidation to the county's majority black population. It was into this seething element of nastiness and violence that the movement for freedom had decided to hold fort. It was in that fiery pit of hell's damnation that landed my brother, the late Robert Paris Moses. Robert Moses, who at the time was the director of the Mississippi Project and field secretary for SNCC. I could spend a great deal of time writing about the exploits of Mr. Robert Morris, this warrior of justice who risked his life and limb on many occasions. However, I purpose mentally with another task this morning. My task is to show that many roles and many people serve so that today we as a people can stand straight and look directly into the eyes of those who still hate us. No, today's sharing is directed towards two men who in many ways could have been easily forgotten warriors on the road to our people's freedom. One of these warriors with a limited education had 9 children and a wife, a family to raise and care for, but decided that he had to stand up for justice Herbert Lee couldn't give soul-inspiring speeches that would motivate those around him to direct action. Herbert Lee could hardly sign his own name. Herbert Lee was small in physical stature, but his heart and his desire for freedom was immeasurable. The thing that Herbert Lee could do was drive a car and steer those who were the faces of dissension around this vile county called Herbert. This county whose white leadership operated with the complete knowledge that they could eliminate any individual who they felt threatened the status quo of white supremacy. Herbert's best friend, E.W. Steptoe, NAACP branch chairman, needed Lee's assistance to orient and transport workers who had come to the county to register blacks to vote. Herbert Lee knew the danger of the assigned mission, but he took on the role with an extreme amount of determination and self-pride. You see, Herbert Lee had 9 children who he wanted to live in a different world than the world that he had grown into. The world he sought for his offspring meant that they would never bow down to the seeds of prejudice and racial hatred. The other person I'm including in this share is Lewis Allen, who was the bystander. That bystander who saw injustice and decided he could no longer ignore the seeds of hatred that fostered the act that led to the horrendous act he witnessed. Lewis Allen was a resident of Liberty, Mississippi. I'm going to call it Unliberty, Mississippi. He was married and a father of 5 children. Lewis Allen wanted the same things for his children that Herbert Lee sought for his children. That not any of his children had to bow down to repression and oppression. He wanted his children and all black children in the state of Mississippi to learn to stand tall and straight. You know when things are bad? It's when the elected officials, not elected by not one single vote of anyone black in that community. It's when these officials feel that they have the power to kill without fear of either retribution or prosecution. It is in that atmosphere of pure hate that Herbert Lee was placed on September 30th, 1961, when an elected state legislator, E.H. Hearst, decided he had seen enough of Herbert Lee's works to support the outsiders who threatened the world, that world of white supremacy that Hearst lived in and approved of. How dare this Negro openly support the actions leading to democratic participation for black people in the county. These black people, if given a vote, would surely have run Hearst's white ass straight out of Amite County, Mississippi. So Hearst, with murderous intent, as well as full knowledge of freedom from prosecution, Hearst in cold blood blew a hole in the head of Herbert Lee, killing him in plain view of numerous bystanders. We all know how slow justice in the adjudication of that justice can work in today's world, while in Liberty, Mississippi, or Unliberty, Mississippi, justice on that day worked quickly within hours of Hearst murdering Herbert Lee, even with Herbert Lee's dead body still untouched on the streets of Unliberty, Mississippi, because black people feared moving it. The county sheriff had armed white folks and have an inquest that exonerated Hearst for any wrongdoing in the murder of Herbert Lee. One of the witnesses forced to testify that the murder was justified was Lewis Allen. This actual lie of repression just didn't sit right with Lewis Allen. Lewis Allen understood after the fact that this savage act of murderous intent by Hearst was indeed wrong. So he did what anyone of sound mind and clear thought would do. Lewis Allen, a proud black man, rescinded his initial testimony and declared that he had been physically threatened. Allen stated that he had not given Hearst a pass in that hastily arranged inquest. If he hadn't given him a pass in that hastily arranged inquest, he would have been dealt with severely. He would have probably been hanging on an oak tree. However, once Lewis Allen made the decision to rescind his lie, his forced lie, and seek justice and speak truth to Mississippi's power of racial domination. Lewis Allen opened the door wide to blatant acts of repressive acts against him and those closest to him. Once Lewis Allen spoke to those federal agents regarding the murder of Herbert Lee, his life and the lives of those closest to him were direct targets of intimidation and harassment. After facing these continuing acts of intimidation for almost 2.5 years, Lewis Allen was under enormous pressure, and he feared for the life of his family, his 5 children. A decision was made, the decision that had been made by many people of color before him in states like Mississippi. Lewis Allen would have to leave Emmett County, Mississippi. He would have to leave Unliberty, Mississippi. Lewis Allen and his family would take a northern track and escape, so to speak, for freedom and safety's sake. Lewis Allen, who had faced down a severe beating by a county deputy officer. Lewis Allen, who had also faced down being wrongly accused of multiple crimes. Lewis Allen, who had seen his close friend and former employee Leo McKnight's family murdered in a suspicious house fire. The pressure of standing up to Mississippi's unjust, ungodly system of bigotry and hatred was just too damn difficult for Mr. Allen. Yet the word had gotten out that Lewis Allen was planning to make a move to ensure his family's safety. This meant that possibly Lewis Allen would be available to bring real justice in the possible prosecution of E.B. Hurst, the state legislator who murdered Herbert Lee in cold blood. But that was a final straw that stirred the drink in a glass of racist hatred. So on January 31st, 1964, Lewis Allen joined Medgar Evers as black men shot dead in the driveway of their home. The home he was murdered in front of was the home he was set to leave on February 1st, 1964. So Lewis Allen never got to enjoy a Wisconsin winter or see his family grow up or enjoy his older days of quiet solitude. Lewis Allen joined Herbert Lee as victims of an awful system that had been fostered and sheltered way too long in America. Even today in 2024, as vestiges of hatred and bigotry continue to rear their ugly heads, still to this day in America, we, my black brothers and black sisters, need to continue to be reminded that our peoples paid the ultimate prices yesterday so that we can stand tall and look those who dare dish bigotry and racial hatred and injustice straight in the eyes today. Our community hardly ever plays "We Will Never Turn Back" on radio rotations. Those songs motivated by direct protest and action have been replaced. Today's songs are written by Megan Thee Stallion, Cardi B, Young Thug, or Wiz Khalifa, or Beyonce, or Nicki Minaj, and others. Yet there was once a singer whose words were inspired by actual human sacrifice. And those people who were lucky enough to cross paths with either Herbert Lee or Lewis Allen will always be better for it. So today, on this Black History moment, just go ask yourself go ask somebody amusing about the song "We'll Never Turn Back," and think about just a moment for the lives that lost of Lewis Allen and Herbert Lee. Have a great day, and thank you.